Top 10 reasons after 20 years Classic is still a top MMO. Let's take a look.
World of Warcraft is a version of the game that people have been coming back to now for closing in on 2 decades. At this point, it's proven itself as a truly timeless game for so many of us around the entire world. It was the version of WoW that started off this crazy journey so many years ago, and on its re-release in 2019, it once again dominated the whole gaming market for a second time. And whether
I don't know if anything can ever get as hype as 2019 Classic release. I mean, obviously there was a big hardcore hype lately, but dude, 2019 was crazy.
you compare vanilla to its other options within the MMO genre or just to other WoW expansions, it just does certain things differently. Vanilla was and still is really a unique experience. But what exactly sets it apart? What are the main things that this version of World of Warcraft isn't shy to do, which typically games these days are? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. 10 of the ways which vanilla plays that make it, well, the vanilla World of Warcraft experience that we know and love. I did try to put these in order as well, but each one, although not as gameplay impacting as the next, does seem important to the overall pacing and just the feel of the game. So with that said, these for me are the top 10 things that make vanilla vanilla. When you first arrive upon the grand world of Azeroth, you're going to be doing a lot of running about to hand in quests, to get to new zones, pick up flight paths, and so on.
Dude, people always meme whenever I stream this game that like it's literally just a running simulator. And it kind of is, but it's also what makes the game what it is, man. It's unapologetically just itself, and it's just a big world, right? It's awesome. Brevok, thank you for the
Classes
prime.
are lucky enough to get hold of a movement speed ability early on, such as Aspect of the Cheetah, Ghost Wolf, or Travel Form. But for every class in the game, you need to wait all the way until level 40 before you can buy a proper mount and start riding around at an impressive bonus 60% speed. And your first mount is a big investment. I mean, unless you're a Warlock or a Paladin, you get them for free, but for everyone else, it's a big investment. I don't know about you, but oftentimes after I've just bought a mount on a character, I still catch myself running about because I just get so used to it. And while some of those journeys you have to do on foot are super long, such as the first trip from the wetlands up to Arathi Highlands on Alliance, or, you know, just going anywhere in the Barrens it feels like, it gives the world that scope of size which it's famous for. And
the vanilla world, it's not really that huge, but it feels that big because your character's so slow, right? So I mean, it is a massive world, but like still, right? Try doing 200 jumps in EVE Online and come back to us to complain about walking simulators. I played a little bit of EVE Online, and I do know that game is also incredibly crazy with that stuff. But I feel like a lot of the older MMOs are like this, and that's just what makes them so unique. And I think that's what has a lot of people like wanting to play it, right? Because it is a slow game. It is a very, very drawn out game, but god damn it, do you get invested? It's so good.
The first mount will also set you back 90 gold or so after your faction discounts. And if you haven't been particularly careful with your gold up to level 40, you probably won't even be able to afford it for some time. I'd say on a regular playthrough on a first character on a fresh server, most people are getting their mount somewhere between level 44 to 46. That wouldn't be unreasonable. To really be able to get it at 40, you have to have it in mind from the beginning and work towards it. Use the...
It's really, really rare people get their mount at 40. Unless they have like friends give them gold or something. Most people even actually get it towards 50.
Auction house, send things to your bank vault and so on. And that's even before we get to level 60, where your epic mount is going to set you back a crazy 1,000 gold. But the thing is, the game isn't afraid to have you run around on foot for ages. I mean, experience-wise, level 37 is about a third of the way to 60, and 44 is about halfway. So just on experience alone, you can tell how much of the game you're going to be running for. But I think that time you spend on foot running around the world is super important for vanilla. For the
thing about that level thing where people say 47 is the halfway point with the XP, it makes sense, but like you also get more XP at the higher levels, so it's not really like that, right? But I get what he means with it.
World building, for the importance on planning where you're going to go, for PvP and so much more. And so that is why I think it was worth a mention here. Next up is something that we will all run across during our time playing WoW, and those are of course item upgrades. In vanilla, you start with essentially nothing and have to work your way up from great quality trash items all the way to epics. And the quest rewards and upgrades in vanilla can feel like a big deal simply because there's such a massive disparity between the power level of different items that you are awarded. I mean,
it feels so stupid to say, but I got more excited on my hardcore druid getting a green helmet from RFD than I was getting the legendary Furlac on my retail character. I like that. I had more dopamine like rush in my whole body about getting a green item at like level 30. It's so silly, but dude, it's weird, man. Like the gearing progress. I feel like this guy right here. That was me right there.
for example,
That's a cap, bro. It ain't. It ain't a cap. Maybe it's also because I'm just more invested into vanilla, right? I'm more like a vanilla Andy, so therefore I get more joy out of it, I guess.
Quest gives you a cloth chest with strength on as a reward. By the way, this is from quite a long quest chain that has you going all around the world. Or maybe you get a plate item with a bunch of spirit on. You kind of ask yourselves, what exactly were the devs thinking here? And whenever I say this, I always hear somebody saying that the devs wanted you to be able to distinguish between the good and bad items. And man, did they go all out on bad items. So you...
I think so. I think they just slapped random stats on a bunch of shit. I also think it's because they had planned for some classes to do things that they didn't turn out being able to do. Like rogues, you should be able to use bucklers, like and stuff like that. So like a bunch of the stats are really weirdly made, right?
Really get to see them a lot. I mean, to be fair, Spirit is actually a half-decent stat when you're leveling early game, but it does fall off unless you're a class which really benefits from it, such as a Shadow Priest. Then again, in a sea of items with highly questionable stats for flavor, there are also some massive upgrades which you will equip as soon as possible, and you'll probably keep them on for about 20 levels or so. Think of the Seal of Rin from the long quest chain on Alliance, the Whirlwind Axe from the Warrior exclusive quest, or the Rune of the Guard Captain from that Horde quest in the Hinterlands. Going out of your way for those big quest rewards is most definitely worth it in vanilla, and you really feel the power of your upgrades when your abilities start hitting that much bit more. And having gone on that journey to get them, instead of just going to the auction house and pressing buy, makes them feel even more satisfying to get. And this trend of items being massive upgrades definitely continues at endgame too, with certain items being constantly in high demand, such as Ring of Acuria, Onslaught Girdle, Chromatically Tempered Sword, Drakefang Talisman, and so many more. Huge item upgrades are a big part of vanilla, and you really feel when you get one. Next up is regarding classes, and specifically those little things that each class has, which, although they tend to rarely be useful, are small bonuses which make them what they are. I'm talking...
I like that not every class can do everything in vanilla. It's very much like a rock, paper, scissors game, but it's cool because it's like class identity, right? It's awesome.
About things such as water breathing or walking on the shaman, detect invisibility on warlock, divine intervention on paladin, or eagle eye on hunter. Quite a few of these flavor type abilities were just ideas that were had during earlier stages of World of Warcraft's development, but were left in the game because they added that little extra bit to the feel of each class within the game. And understanding these niche abilities and knowing how they can fit in your class's total toolkit can absolutely make a difference. When I'm playing a shaman, I always ensure I have a stack of each reagent so I can water walking or breathing. There's plenty of underwater quests. Detect invisibility on the warlock.
Shamans have eagle eye. Yeah, they have foresight. Like shamans and hunters have both eagle eye and foresight. Divine intervention came out in vanilla. Yeah, a paladin can sacrifice their own character to like DI someone, make them invulnerable for 2 minutes, but like stand still.
What can be used to see enemy patrols before they end up chain pulling and causing a disaster in dungeons such as Diamond West. Divine intervention.
I remember when I saw like Enslaved Demon as a kid, I was like, what the fuck? They can go up to like a demon and just make it their pet? I thought that was so sick. I thought it was
is a
so
good
cool.
last resort when a wipe is occurring so you can save a healer and begin resurrecting. And Eagle Eye on a Hunter is super useful for finding patrolling mobs or spawns within the zone. I mean, speaking of unique class abilities, you can even change your character's language to speak in their native tongue instead of the common languages everyone can understand. RPG. Someone out there needs to be mad enough to do a Night Elf playthrough where they only speak Darnassian, and every time they want to talk, somebody has to translate for them. Over time in WoW, Blizzard would gradually prune many of these abilities out of your spellbook as they were deemed unnecessary clutter, and then in more...
Dude, it's RPG though. Like, MMOs back in the day was a lot more about the RPG perspective, for sure.
More recent
A lot
expansions,
more.
they've started to add them back in again because they
God, what
realized
is...
actually they're pretty cool. But at the start in vanilla, these small extra additions did feel as though they made a difference. Next, I want to talk about the open world nature of vanilla World of Warcraft. Whilst it's not by any means a full sandbox MMO insofar as you can really choose your path at all times and build anything anywhere, it certainly has a lot more choice than the expansions which follow it. You can definitely travel to areas which are high level or go into enemy territory. It's just the case the game will throw a skull level enemy at you that's going to 2-tap you, at which point you'll probably realize that you're not supposed to be there.
I remember being a kid. I had a warrior. I think I was a warrior. Yeah, I was like level 11 or 12 or so. And my brother had like a guild, and they were invading South Shore. You know, South Shore versus Terranville, and I got invited to join. And I remember running to South Shore on like a level 12 like warrior and seeing all the skull level mobs, and I was like, what the heck, man? This is insane. There's like these high level monsters here, and I'm like, I'm struggling in like a, you know, Durotar. I was so blown away by it. It was crazy. Same nostalgia I had playing Morrowind back when I was a kid. I was running around in the whole world of Morrowind searching for like creatures, and there was like those Silt Striders. I thought they were crazy cool. And then there was also, I remember, some sort of like lobster people that like would attack me in the water. It was crazy, man. I never did a single quest in Morrowind as a kid, but I ran around and explored the whole game. Yeah.
There's also much less of a feeling of
When I say the whole game, I probably just mean one zone. But yeah, you know what I mean.
Holding and the game putting you on a set path. This is a big difference from many games nowadays where you almost get the impression that the developers have decided you need to know where to go and what to do at all times, otherwise you're going to get bored and quit. Vanilla isn't afraid to leave matters up to the player in terms of where you'll go, what you'll do, how you'll build your character, the gear that you'll use, and so on. I mean, imagine a totally new player to vanilla who's never played it before without add-ons or guides trying to find their way through the world. When the game first launched, that's what it was like for everyone. I mean, for me at least it was, I can say that. It's not that resources didn't exist online to find things, but my internet was so bad that each internet page would take minutes to load, and I would have rather just been playing the game during that time.
Mom, get off the phone! I'm trying to play WoW!
The freedom to just go and do stuff has also lended it quite well to Vanilla's replayability, as we've seen through Blizzard's attempts on seasonal servers in Season of Mastery and Discovery, as well as players taking on the hardcore challenge. Overall, Vanilla is a game that's not afraid for you to go out in the world and learn about it, and for me that's definitely been a strength. Speaking of freedom within the game and learning about it, that really brings me to my next point. Vanilla is on a surface level, very simple to play, but there's a crazy amount of depth to it. I mean, for real, you can get so far in vanilla on some basic gameplay. You can be keyboard turning, clicking, the lot. And then you get to
honestly, I think that's what I love. I love the simplicity. That's also why I unironically really prefer Diablo 2 over Diablo 4. It's a very basic, simple game with a ton of depth, right? There's so much depth to it, but the overall, like, just like the base of the game, super simple. Like, it's super duper simple. You can play it and with no problem if you know nothing about the game, but if you really are into it, there's so much depth, right? Easy to learn, hard to master. Yeah, I think that's so good. Yeah.
Game raids where many classes rotations are about 3 buttons, and if you're a caster you literally just stand at the back and press 1 button on repeat and that is it. You are actually playing the game in an optimal way because it's just that simple. But there is a near endless amount of extra things to know about vanilla, which of course the game never tells you. Melee leeway, the 5-second rule, how to make different macros, or, you know, the entire threat mechanic, which is absolutely core to every single aspect of PvE within the game. You have no way of knowing how it works without add-ons. You don't know good leveling routes within the game, which spec to go, which items are the best, and so on. The more you dig into it, the more there is to know about vanilla World of Warcraft. And the main point here is I feel as though it's a game which primarily rewards game knowledge over game skill. Player ability and skill can matter, of course, in certain scenarios, such as PvP, but just knowing a lot about the game will serve you super well. And just when you feel like you know everything about vanilla WoW, you always end up finding something else out. So that's why
they really nailed the satisfaction of this game. Like, it feels very good pressing a button and seeing that big number pop up. Like they really like I think that's the main reason for WoW's success. It feels so good to play. Like it's so responsive, it's so good. They really nailed that so well. Even MMOs that released today feel so clunky compared to vanilla. Like, dude, a game releasing or being made and released like in 2005 feels more clean than a lot of like newer releases. It's so insane. I forgot you're doing live early now. I'm here. Yeah, I'm live early, man. Live early today. I mean, as
for me,
usual.
vanilla is simple to play, but has so much depth to it, and it really becomes more noticeable the more you play. Next up is the fact that in vanilla, we have a more dangerous open world, as well as certain elite zones which can be very difficult to solo. Fresh out your starter zone at level 6, you're probably feeling pretty confident. The mobs in starter zones move slower, they can be neutral, and they're generally pretty easy to deal with. And then you step foot in that open world, and it becomes immediately apparent that you are in fact not very strong at all. Whether it's
dude, when it's such a big difference. That's basically with Final Fantasy. It feels clunky. Yeah, I don't know. They really nailed the smoothness of WoW. But honestly, Pastry, you're right. What Blizzard did really freaking well is they took ideas that other companies did and they just made it way better. Dude, they were just the goats at like getting freaking like the games right. Like yoinking all the ideas, turning it into like a new thing and just getting it, right?
Kobold's
Same as StarCraft 2, right? I mean, StarCraft 2, they literally yoinked half the ideas from Warhammer, right? The easy clap. Same thing with World of Warcraft and other games too.
Spawning in the mines in Elwyn, Defias over in Westfall, or the classic Son of Aragold death down in Silverpine, the world of Warcraft can come at you pretty fast. Most classes consider anything more than 2 mobs at once to be a serious threat in vanilla, and you need to use some serious cooldowns, if you even have any, that is. And at times an enemy mob can just decide they're going to dodge or parry about 6 times in a row and you just lose a 1v1. And then there's mages, of course, who can pull a dozen things at once and AoE them down, but you know, just hero class things. But the open world is dangerous. It feels that way, and it never stops being dangerous either, right from that moment when you leave your starter zone all the way to level 60. It's things like this that make the hardcore challenge so interesting to people. There really is a constant threat of making a fatal mistake. At the same time in vanilla, there are open world elite zones to take on too, which are often great for XP and can have some nice quest rewards too. Though you're not really supposed to take them on solo, but it can be a nice test of skill to see if you can do it. Otherwise, you do as the game intends and you naturally run into other people in the same place doing the same quest and you group up so it becomes easier. This is one of the ways that vanilla encourages you to form parties and meet other people within the world. But
yeah, open world dungeons kind of vibe. They also spend more time drinking than fighting, but that part they usually don't mention. Oh, in these kind of videos, I think it's a fine thing. I think like the fact that the whole process is super slow is what makes it fun. It's a slow, very just chill. It's like you're living a second life in a way. I mean, it literally is.
Only if you want to do so, and I think that is quite important to remember. Next is a moment that we have all experienced, I am sure, and on each character when it happens, it feels just as good as the last time. It's like a World of Warcraft graduation moment, and that's of course when you finally equip your first shoulder and helm slot items. In fact, for that matter, you don't really get neck items or rings or trinkets, and definitely
one of my friends in TP, this is not vanilla, it's in TPC, but you guys know the Blood Elf mask in TPC that you could get on, was it in Horde you could get it, I think, or Alliance? I don't remember. But I remember one of my friends got it, and then another one of my schoolmates was so jealous, and he sold it to one of our classmates for 2 weeks of his school lunch. He freaking sold his school lunch for 2 weeks for an in-game helmet in World of Warcraft. So for every day for 2 weeks, he would give his lunch to that other guy in turn for a helmet in WoW. It was so stupid. It's soulbound. No, I don't think the one in TBC was. TBC, what is it called? I don't remember the name of it. It's the one that dropped in TBC from like the Blood Elf, like the Draenei starting zone. I don't remember what it's called. Blood Elf Mask? Blood Elf Mask. Blood Elf Bandit Mask? I don't know. This is like the retail version, but it looked like this. Yeah, it was this mask. This is not this one. It just reminded me of that. Yeah. That one is like a super rare drop. It's like a 1% or so. Next time, say which one. Well, I did. I did say that. Yeah.
Not idols, librams, or totems for ages either, as in the ones you equip.
No, you did. I'm pretty sure I did. I said the one that dropped in TBC. Doesn't matter. You're right. I'm wrong. Let's move on.
Difference is, though, you can see your shoulder and helm items on your character, so that just makes them better, doesn't it?
Did?
I mean, even around level 18
or
so, you might randomly come across a common quality pair of shoulders, but it still feels good to equip them, even though stats-wise they're basically doing nothing for you. As for your helm, well, that comes quite a bit later, and for a regular character, you'll be seeing that somewhere between levels 25 to 30. Ooh. It's the scarcity of these items at early levels which makes dungeons such as Scarlet Monastery Armory such a big deal. It doesn't have to just be your helm or shoulder items either, just getting your first bag in vanilla feels good. There's nothing like starting your first quest within the game on a fresh character and you instantly just get a 6-slot bag in your inventory. It's the true sign of a blessed character. And even in later levels when you loot a traveler's knapsack, that just feels great as well. Even if you want to sell it, you're going to get a few gold. In a game where your inventory can fill up so fast, that matters. Which leaves us with what I feel are 3 of the most important things which make vanilla what it is.
Walking into Stormwind for the first time. I wish I could do that again. Man, am I just like a nostalgia? Am I gonna live just my whole life being nostalgic about this game? Like, god damn it, dude. Like, Jesus Christ.
So first up, I've got something which I think can be a little bit overlooked in vanilla, but for me it's always felt really important, and that's having the feeling of going back to a major town or city after a long questing trip, and restocking and sorting out your bags before you're ready to head out once again. Imagine the scenario. You've been out in Stranglethorn Vale questing for a few hours, and your bags are now full of random meat, troll sweat, wild vine, and about 24 different other random items. You're starting to run low on food and water, and you've gone through your health pots as well. But at the same time, for all this work, you've got a quest log which is absolutely full and completed to show. That moment when you finally head back to Booty Bay, sell all your trash, mail the good stuff to your bank vault, turn in all those quests, sort out your gear and so on, just feels so good to do. Maybe
I actually never noticed that pirate flag. That sounds so... I was just looking at this picture now. I never really paid attention that there was a pirate flag there.
Feels so good to do. Maybe you head over to Stormwind afterwards, check the auction house for upgrades, get more food and water and health pots, go to your class trainer to get new skills. Maybe whilst you're there, a world buff drops, and hey, you're ready to go. Bags clean, gear repaired, to head back out there and get stuck into the world once again with a fresh set of quests to work on. Those moments when you pause to just sort things out, for me, add so much to the game, and it's something that everybody does. It also encourages that planning aspect of vanilla in terms of what quests will I do now, where do I want to go next, and so on. So for me, this whole ritual everyone does just adds a bunch to the game. And number 2 is something which I feel as though ties a number of points that I've gone over together, and that's the fact that in vanilla, leveling feels important. And it feels as though it has as much or even more at times importance than the end game. In future expansions, Blizzard started accelerating leveling a lot to get you caught up with the current expansion and into the new content as well as the end game.
I think a lot of people could argue that they don't even care about vanilla in game. I think the best vanilla experience is the leveling process, farming all your prebis, doing your first raids, and then doing some world PvP if you're into that. And dude, that's the most fun. The journey of leveling your character, gearing it up, you know, pre-bis farming, your first raids, everything like that. That's the vibe. That's so fun. What's up, Housel? Good to see you, man.
Started as early as midway through TBC, when Blizzard went back and reduced the amount of experience needed between 20 and 60, as well as making some of those iconic open world elite zones non-elite anymore. In Wrath, they further squished XP, added heirlooms and the LFD, and, well, things just really went from there. Of course, by WoW's current expansion, you can't expect a new player to be spending 100 hours in vanilla and the same amount on each subsequent expansion. So I get why things were sped up over time, but in vanilla, the world was the main character.
I think in a way that's where this is what oh my god, no, I don't want to get into this conversation. No, don't do it. Okay, just mention it quickly and move on. If they ever do a Classic Plus, I hope that they just focus on making it what makes vanilla great. Don't try to appease both like retail players and classic players. Just make a classic game. Make a game that's, you know, for classic. You know, the classic world, the classic leveling. Okay? Housel, thank you for the 62 months. We need classic fresh. Maybe they'll do it, okay? But just make it for vanilla, right? Make it for the people that like that kind of MMO, right? Don't try to please both people, because I think that's where, you know, some things could go wrong, all right? Moving on.
Themselves have even said as much, and your character's progression, power gain, and growth over that journey is part of what's given vanilla such longevity over the years, to the point where people are still hyped about going again on a fresh character to this day. Which means that number one, the most important thing which makes vanilla for me is, well, something no expansion can ever do, because it's the fact that vanilla is not an expansion. When you start here, you start at level 1 with nothing in your bags, barely any gear, and it's a new adventure every single time. I mean,
that's also why hardcore is so fun, though. Hardcore is like a mini fresh every time you die. You know, it's like a mini fresh injection.
Sure, if you played the game a lot before, you can mail yourself gear, you can boost and so on, but that's up to you whether or not you want to do that. Every single player starts off in the same way in vanilla as the humble adventurer. You're a small person in a very big world, delivering letters, solving small problems, and eventually you're led to doing great things towards the endgame of WoW. I mean, if you just stop and think for a moment, when's the first time you actually fight a full-grown dragon in World of Warcraft? Sure, you've got the whelplings over in the wetlands, there's drakes in Badlands, but a fully grown dragon, that's properly endgame material, such as...
Well, that's actually a good point. I never thought about that. I mean, the first dragon is Aranicus, but that's a shade of a dragon. That's not an actual dragon. Yeah, that's a... Guys, you're fighting a shade, right? You're fighting a shade of Aranicus. Badlands? Well, when you go to Badlands... There's Terramus the Devourer, but he's not like someone you just go fight. He's like an actual, like, you know, a big enemy that can, like, kill you. Yeah. And again, Terramus is like a drake. He's not a dragon. This is a dragon, right? Yeah. Terramus is in Blast... Oh, wait, Badlands. Oh, yeah, Blasted Lands, but Badlands, sorry, I've confused the two. You mean the quest where you summon those two big drakes. Again, that's a drake, that's not a dragon, okay? World boss in Ashara, first dragon. Yeah, they're also drakes. Yeah, dude, you actually don't really fight a dragon before endgame, except if you count Sunken Temple, Aranicus, you know? Hillspread Dragon too, again, that's a drake. You know which one you're talking? You're talking about Narilastras, whatever it's called.
The Green Dragon world bosses, or Veilstraz the Corrupt in
UBRS? It's not a dragon. That's a dragonkin. But again, that's endgame.
BWL. When expansion started, the old world felt as though it changed from the main character of the game to just an obstacle which you needed to overcome so that you could progress onto expansions and the new content as soon as possible. And when you were starting on...
Ubear is the dragon that Ren rides on. The drake he rides on. He doesn't ride on a dragon. It's a drake.
Expansion, your character was already quite powerful with all your gear and abilities, and you just went from there. But that is not the case for vanilla, and I think ultimately having that progression path from 1 to 60 in a cohesive world is something that truly makes vanilla the game that it is. And that's it, 10 things which I think have proven their worth over the years in vanilla World of Warcraft, and have made it to this day still one of the most popular MMOs in the world. Would you replace any of these points, and is there anything else which you think is core to the world of vanilla WoW? Let me know below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you on the next one very soon.
Dude, the really videos are like nostalgia for me, man. Like I just like talking about vanilla, so it's like they're always great to watch, man. As someone who never played the original back in the day, I can still say it's one of the most fun I've ever had playing WoW. Classic is top tier. The original dev team was quite possibly the best dev group ever assembled. Most dev teams back in the day, it seems like it was so much more passion-driven about making good games. These days, it's, you know, more about, like, making a lot of money. But, you know, it's a different thing, right? It's a different... Back in the day, different, man. It's different shit, dude.